Welcome to Hockey Night in New York, where Islanders hockey always reigns supreme. Whether you were raised at the barn in Uniondale or born in the stable at Belmont, Hockey Night in New York is your home for all things Isles. Now, let's drop the puck and get this party started.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is Hockey Night in New York. Welcome to the program, everyone. It is Sunday, March 23rd, 2025. Coming to you live from Florida Media here in Rockville Center. That's right, we're back. We took a week off, but we've returned. Stefen Rosner and I are back. Big show coming up for you tonight. Mr. Ethan Sears of the NY Post will be joining us. Stefen Rosner, how are you?
I'm feeling dapper.
You look decent.
Yeah, I thought you said you were also going to wear a suit. That's why I wore my suit, and then you wear the t-shirt.
Well, I guess the joke's on you, pal.
The joke's on me. No, I was covering actually the first ever Israeli Hockey League game in North America, part of the USA Cup. So really cool. UBS Arena, Jerusalem versus Tel Aviv. It was really cool.
Yeah? How was the competition?
It was actually really good. Very physical, a lot of fighting, not like dropping the gloves, but very physical, some goaltender interference, but all in all, the energy was really good.
And you made it here.
And I made it here.
You're doing it all.
Yes, I can drive.
Well, folks, thanks for tuning in to our latest edition of Hockey Night in New York. Before we get into all the fun stuff, I want to thank all of our wonderful sponsors, starting with Main Street Board Game Cafe. Find your crowd and unplug your game at 307 Main Street in Huntington Village. We're also proud to be sponsored by Center Station Bar and Grill. Catch every Isles game with great food and drinks at 279A Sunrise Highway in Rockville Center. We're also proud to be sponsored by Razor and Kniff, attorneys at law ready to fight for you. Go to razorandkniff.com. That is RAISERANDKENNIFF.com for a free consultation. And last but not least, we are proud to be sponsored by Tovi Hockey, the innovative hockey technology company and creators of the Diamond Air Blade. Get 10% off at tovihockey.com with promo code HNINY10. And if you happen to be hanging out with us live here during the show, you want to get your questions in during Questions Brewing, type in Questions Brewing, followed by your question, and then we will answer said question. And now we can start with Experience Points, presented by Main Street Board Game Cafe, where we make our points about the Islanders' experience in the previous week. So, Stefen, obviously we weren't here last week, as we just noted. We're not going to go all the way back and talk about all those games because that's old news.
Yes.
But what we will say is that the Islanders are on a 3-0-2 streak, starting with that overtime loss to Edmonton after they got back from the California trip. They're back in the playoff mix, man.
As we all said was
right, we all knew this was going to happen. None of us were ready for the season to be over at all. But you got the OT loss to Edmonton, the 4-2 comeback win against the Stanley Cup champions in Florida. You got the 4-2 comeback win against Pittsburgh a couple nights later. Then you get the 4-3 overtime win against the Habs. That's huge. Biggest game of the season there. That really keeps them in the mix here, even though they gave the Habs a point. And then, of course, you go to 4 p.m. yesterday. Rare start for the Islanders there. But losing overtime, tight game, looked like a playoff game. They dropped that, but it is in overtime. They get another point. They stay 2 points behind Montreal for that final playoff spot. What stood out to you in this past week and a half?
Yeah, Patrick Ross talked a lot about resiliency with this team. And okay, Patrick, you say resilient, but then you don't have resilient efforts, and then, here comes this week, right?
Yeah.
Edmonton Oilers, talented team. Obviously, they have McDavid. Draisaitl, you get that one to overtime, you lose, but you get there. Very important.
Yeah.
Florida, you never have an exact game in the NHL, but the game against Florida and the game against Pittsburgh were pretty close
Very
to
similar.
as close as you
Very
possibly can.
similar.
Play really well in the first period, go down 2-0, come back, win it with Holmstrom getting the empty net in both games.
Right.
So resiliency was in those games. I thought Holmstrom, he had the first 3-game point streak of his career, a 4-game point streak, but he was a big standout this week. The power play did have a couple of goals in one of the games.
Yes.
Which was certainly a bright spot. They didn't really follow it up.
The rest of them?
Not so much.
Yeah.
But you just saw a group that everyone was contributing. You got the bottom 6 scoring. You got the top 6 in Bo Horvat leading the charge offensively. You got great goaltending. You got Sorokin a break this week, which is important. And as much as they didn't get the win, Hogberg was he did his job. He gave him a chance to win that
every
game.
time he's in there.
Right. So I think this week you discovered a lot about this group, just about the resiliency, because even when they blew the lead, like they did the other night, they only get 1 point, which hurts, but what they did earlier in the week kind of made up for it, and they got to stay where they were in that wild card race.
Look, you look at that collection of games, and 3-0-2, you really can't ask for much better than that, especially when you Right. But especially when you have Florida
right.
and Edmonton sprinkled in there, the two teams that went to the final last year, and they don't lose a game in regulation, right? Like maybe you get greedy, you say, they should have finished the game yesterday against Calgary, sure. But that overall, body of work there, it brought them back into the playoff mix. Now they're one of like maybe if you're feeling good and optimistic of 3 teams now. Yeah. We'll see what happens tomorrow against Columbus because that could drag them back in. But maybe you win that game tomorrow and then you might just be worrying about Montreal and the Rangers for the rest of the season here. And they got a shot now.
Yeah, it was massive. You don't want to give up that point, but Brock Nelson, the Avalanche, helped out the Islanders last night. Right. Well, they almost didn't.
Montreal's been impressive, man. Against the Isles came back. Now against Colorado.
And the games before the Islander game, they had 2 third-period comebacks before that. So they've been on an absolute tear in terms of resiliency for their group. But Colorado gives them a 4-1 lead. It's 4-4. Brock Nelson wins it in the shootout. I asked Wah about it this morning. He said that was nice. Like, they needed that.
Thanks, buddy.
You want to see Brock helping out his former team. Right. But, yeah, like you said, you really can't ask for more because he did it against the Stanley Cup champion and the finalists. And you found ways to get much
needed points. And a team you had to beat in Montreal.
Right.
It's a huge game.
That game was awesome. Yeah. That was a good hockey. I mean, Calgary was a good hockey game, too. People might say it wasn't. Like, that was a good hockey game. So, all in all, this week, resilient efforts, everyone producing, and you're getting good defense, good goaltending.
Yeah, speaking of good defense, and we talked about this a little bit before the show, the game yesterday against Calgary, I thought the Islanders were excellent defensively in the third period in particular yesterday. I mean, that had a playoff-like atmosphere, and I think they were kind of playing a playoff-style game, but every rush that Calgary had coming down in the third period to the outside, every time. The Islanders did an excellent job of keeping the outside, and if and when they did get a shot on Hogberg, he was ready to go. He had one nice kick save there in the third period, but I think on the defensive side of things, I mean, pretty much throughout this little run here, but I like what I saw in the third period against Calgary yesterday, and if they can keep up that style of play, especially with Sorokin getting back in between the pipes, I mean, anything could happen, and it's so encouraging that they were able to steal 3 out of 4 points from Florida and Edmonton. You look at the schedule ahead, we'll get more on that and what's on tap, but all of a sudden things are looking like it's possible again, which is insane to say because, you come after the trade deadline, you get rid of Brock Nelson, already know Matt Barzal, and you're like, how is that going to happen? And here we are. Yeah,
and I think last year Sorokin obviously struggled. Varlamov took over and kind of led him to the promised land.
Right.
But Sorokin right now, I think it's been 7 or 8 starts in a row where 3 goals or fewer. He's been brilliant. But you got him that rest, which was important, and you get a point. So ideally, could you have gotten 2? Hogberg played well enough for sure early in that game to keep it close and allow the Islanders to at least come back in the third, take the lead in the third. They blow it, but he was excellent. So I think when you are able to have trust in your backup, which they didn't have, last year, I don't think there was that much trust in Sorokin down the stretch. And even with Hogberg being out, there was little to no trust in Skarek. So having Hogberg back in the mix at least allows Sorokin to keep dominating and also realize when he needs a rest, walk and turn to him. So I think that's very important as well. And also, it'd be one thing if Hogberg came in and was terrible, then you lose that trust. He came in and played well.
And then you're playing Sorokin every night.
It's a back-to-back next weekend, and now you don't have to worry about, well, if I don't play Sorokin, I'm giving our team no chance to win. But Hogberg's played so well even with time off. He hadn't played since March 9th, and he was great.
As far as I'm concerned, he did the job he was asked to do. He gets them a point against Calgary, another team fighting for their playoff lives out west. So I thought it was a great job by him. And just to drive the point home on Sorokin, .923 save percentage over the 4 games during this 5-game stretch. So he's been outstanding. No more than 3 goals against, 2, I think, in the majority of them. And he's looked great. And if you want to just touch on a couple other guys, we're going to talk a little bit more about this guy later, but Simon Holmstrom's been good. He's, he got those empty netters that you talked about, but he's
power play shot.
He's looked excellent on the power play. Like, it's almost like, what were you guys waiting for?
What they're waiting for? To move Brock out of that spot so Holmstrom could be in that spot.
Yeah, I guess that's true. But at the same time, you look at how bad this power play has been. And by the way, you noted those 2 goals. That's 2 out of 11 during that stretch of games. So that was still 18.1%. Not very good. The kill, however, has been great. 12 of 14, 85.7%. They're actually out of the basement in 25th place now, but the power play is still last.
The defense on the PK against Calgary was as perfect as you possibly get. Everything to the outside, you saw Kadri coming down, saw other guys coming down and just spin back because they had absolutely nothing. Picking up, I thought that was excellent. And we know if the power play is not going to perform, the PK has to.
Right, and just getting back to that point on Holmstrom, I mean, he's looked so natural there. But in defense of the other side, they've kind of been bringing him along, and it looks like he's been brought along at the right pace. And there were times, earlier in his career where you're like, okay, maybe this guy is a middle 6 guy at best, maybe a third liner who can plug in the odd goal here and there. And now all of a sudden, he's getting more ice time, he's getting more confidence, he's playing special teams, and he may be a top 6 gem for these guys now.
Talk to Wah about him and Horvat and Lee about Holmstrom. It's just, they all know that he has that shot. They just want him to take it more. And I think that proves to him, when you get all of that, I mean, that's a perfect shot over Montembeault. Like, he believes now maybe more in his shot. You got to see him use it.
And before we give out experience points, just talk about Mike Riley being back.
Well, that's the guy I'm giving experience points to, because he comes back into that Florida game, and you're thinking, okay, he's been out since November 1st, what he's gone through to get back.
Right.
It would be completely understandable if he was rusty, playing limited minutes. Nope. Mid-season Riley, he did everything last year that earned him the 1-year deal in that first handful of shifts, that stretch pass to Siplikov.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been absolutely excellent. So maybe one game during the stretch that wasn't his best, but for a guy that's missed so much time, it's easy to root for a guy like that, but he's looked like the guy he was last year, and the Islanders need a guy like that.
Yeah, he's looked great, and credit to Lou Lamoriello and staff for going out and getting guys to allow them to take their time with Riley. They didn't have to rush him back, so that probably plays into why he looked so good when he finally came back. So experience points to him, how many?
It's good, 20,000. It's been a lot.
20,000?
What he's gone through. I mean,
he might be the league leader right now.
Infinity for a guy that has heart procedure and
that's
still
fair.
is able to
he
play
deserves
hockey,
every point that you
just
give
take
him.
all my coins. All
That's true.
All my
that's
points.
Fair.
Yeah.
Myself, let's see. There's a lot of candidates out there. I'm gonna give it to the Team D. I think that it's playing a lot better. I think this is something that has been questionable over the course of the last couple of seasons, where obviously, if you remember, the Islanders were a team that gave up a lot of late leads. They did, if you remember.
Yeah, that one time? Oh, and multiple times.
Yeah, quite a few.
Yeah.
But now they're a team that in very recent history, they're coming back and they're also hanging on to leads for the most part. Yes, the late one against Calgary, a deflection. Yes, Montreal got back in that other game, but they're also finding a way to close these games out now, whereas in the past, not only were they giving up the leads, but they were blowing points. They were blowing losses. So for me, I'm going to give 8,642 points to just the team overall performance on defense, what have you, and that'll do it for Experience Points, presented by Main Street Board Game Cafe. Unplug your game and raise your experience at 307 Main Street in Huntington Village on Long Island's North Shore. Games for sale and for open play. Food and drink, beer and wine, fun and friends. Bring the magic of phones down, eyes up, tabletop board games to your family. Our staff will help you find the right game. From old favorites to the hottest new releases, we have everything from strategic to easy party games. Get off your screens for a night your family will remember. Looking for meetups to join? Our Magic the Gathering, Dungeons & Dragons, Lorcana, and organized play communities are welcoming for all. We also do parties and corporate events located at 307 Main Street in Huntington Village. Go to mainstboardgamecafe.com for more information. Main Street Board Game Cafe. Find your crowd. Unplug your game. And with that, we're going to go to break. When we come back, Ethan Sears of the New York Post will be joining us.
Islanders fans, Sunday night is hockey night in New York. You were raised at the barn in Uniondale or born in the stable at... Tune in to Hockey Night in New York. Catch us live from Floored Media in Rockville Center. Sunday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern as we cover all things Islanders at twitch.tv/HockeyNightNY. All episodes are also available on YouTube and all your favorite podcast providers. And for all you social butterflies, you can follow at Hockey Night NY on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram for all the latest updates. Hockey Night in New York, the best night of the week for any Islanders fan.
Attention all artists, storytellers, and creators of all kinds. It's time to make your content stand out above the rest. And Floored Media is the place to make your visions become a reality. Maybe you want to elevate your podcast and add some video, or turn that novel you wrote into an audiobook. Or maybe you just need the right space to produce your daily vlog. Whether you're a seasoned veteran or just starting out, Floored Media has the professional facilities, exceptional staff, and intimate atmosphere to breathe life into your creative passions at every step of the process.
Did you have a nice break? Well, it's time to get back on the couch for more Islanders therapy on Hockey Night in New York.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. It's time to get back on the couch or whatever you prefer to sit on while you watch this show. It's time for On the Line, presented by Tovi Hockey, the innovative hockey technology company. And join us on the line is none other than Ethan Sears of the New York Post. Ethan, welcome back. How you been?
I'm good. Thanks so much for having me, guys.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure. So, Ethan, before you joined us here, Steph and I were talking about this 3-0-2 run that the Islanders are on. brought themselves back into the playoff mix here. What did you see in these games? And is the dream, does it have potential to be a reality to make the playoffs?
Well, I guess it does. I didn't really think that we would, if you had asked me a week ago or a week and a half ago whether we would be sitting here having this conversation, I would have kind of, tried to give you a gentle letdown of, no, they traded Brock Nelson and this is probably, they just don't quite have it. But I mean, hey, good on them for pulling this run together. And look, if you're 2 points out at this stage, like absolutely they're in it. Absolutely there's a chance of getting in. And, for me, I've just been so impressed by the structure that's in their game, the way they've adapted, the way the bottom six is playing and controlling possession and playing up ice, and what feels like just about every shift. It really feels like a lot of guys are stepping up right now in a really big way, and that's just what this team needed, especially after Brock Nelson got traded.
Hey, Ethan, thanks for joining us. Always appreciate it. Last year we saw this. Patrick Waugh comes in, maybe it takes a couple of months for them to really find their game, and they go on this run to end the season. With what they're doing right now with their resiliency, how much of this do you credit to Patrick Waugh?
You know what? That's a really good question. I think that, yeah. I think there are parts of it that I give a lot of credit to Waugh on. Like the penalty kill to me is like a huge feather in the cap of not just Waugh, but the coaching staff as a whole. The way that yesterday aside, they have turned into a team that tends to lock down on its leads in the third period, to me is a credit to Waugh and to the coaching staff. These are long-standing problems that the Islanders have, that they had at the start of the year, that, in the case of the penalty kill, they had basically through the new year, that they have sort of fixed on the fly. And that's a really hard thing to do, right? It's not like they've changed personnel in any dramatic way. But, I think the players deserve a ton of credit too, because, you can say whatever you want about, well, management still believes in the group, or we still believe in the group, or whatever. But when Brock Nelson gets traded, well, maybe you're not saying it out loud, but like, you're not making that trade if you think this team is going to win the Stanley Cup. Like, of course you're not.
Right.
So, and to me, like the next few games after that in California very much looked like the Islanders very much looked like a team that was kind of aware of that and had just had this big grenade blown in the room, and they looked a little bit down and out. So to be able to pull together and rally after that is, like, I think the players deserve a ton of credit for that. That's really, really impressive to me, because this isn't a situation that they've faced before. They've had guys leave, obviously, but there hasn't been a situation with this core where management has made a decision that in any kind of way, whether it's, subtle or saying aloud or anything, kind of a little bit admitting that, yeah, you know what, maybe this isn't a Stanley Cup contender, and maybe we kind of have to think about the future a little bit. And so we're going to trade this, a core piece. The other guys who have left, either aged out or left in trades, or like Jordan Eberle left the expansion draft. Like, that stuff is more out of, it's for different reasons. And so to respond to that in this way, to me, is really, really, really impressive from this group.
For sure, Ethan, and perhaps it's another feather in the cap for the coaching staff as well as the players, just because you talked about how it looked like on that California trip, right? And you almost wouldn't necessarily blame them for kind of packing it in. Now, of course, as a fan watching the sport, no matter what team it is, you don't want to see your team mail it in. But you knew there was already a built-in excuse, right, with Nelson, one of your top players being dealt off. And you look at, what the staff has done now, what the players have done, and maybe you guys, and even Stefen, you can chime in on this too, is just the energy level in the locker room, right, that maybe we're not always seeing. We're just seeing what's happening during the games. But what's kept this team mentally in it? Right? And because Stefen and I have touched on this during shows in the past too, that, maybe they're blowing games and losing games, but they've always had that effort, that fight. They've always been trying to win hockey games even when they're losing. So I'm curious if there's just anything within the dynamic of, maybe even the spirit, the mentality in the locker room, the way these players are talking that you guys can give us insight into that, gives us I guess more of an idea of, why these guys are just able and ready to come to play despite all the adversity they've had, and that as just like more recently as Nelson getting dealt.
Yeah, I mean, I would start with Anders Lee and just knowing what kind of a leader he is and what kind of a person he is, and that's someone who, even like thinking back on those games in California, like even in those games, he looked like the most engaged guy out there. And like, that's someone who just brings it every night. And when that's your captain, I think it's a lot harder to pack it in. And look, a lot of other guys too, it's the cliche to say like that this is a veteran team and they've, been in this spot before and they understand and all of that, but it is true. These guys have been around for a long time. They get it and they know how to win these games. And like when they come out and say like we believe in the group, yada, 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 like, we all kind of get a little bit deaf to it because we've heard it a million times. Right, yeah. But it is like, for them, it is true. Like they're not just saying that. They genuinely believe that. And, they have that kind of even keel and they've, they did this last year. They did this the year before. They did this, dating back, however, 6-7 years with Barry and all of that. Like, so I think you kind of start with that, and it's not like this crazy insightful answer. Like, it's a little bit of a cliche, but cliches are cliches because they're true sometimes.
To piggyback off that great cliche answer. No, I mean, you nailed it with the leadership. This is a veteran group that's been there before, but also with Brock leaving, it's allowed more of an opportunity for some of the younger guys, like fresher legs. But these are young guys that also have been watching these vets, even if it's Gacom for only a couple of months. I spoke to Gacom today, and he just looks up to these guys and looks up to their ability to be be the pros, right? And I think that's been a huge part as well. Guys like Holmstrom, Gatcomb, even Siplicop with the lack of experience, he gets it. Like, they all get it. D'Angelo coming in, who didn't know, if he was going to sign and they were going to make the playoffs, and now he's part of a playoff run. Right. Mike Riley coming back, I think, has been huge for the group in terms of understanding, like, massive. Hey, we have to, we're playing for each other, of course, but Riley worked his way all the way back for this.
Right.
Let's help. Right. Let's get him and be a part of it. So, yeah, Ethan, great answer. I wanted to ask you about Ilya Sorokin. Obviously, we know what he went through this summer. We know what happened last year. He's played a lot of games this year, but have you been impressed just how he's handled the adversity this year, and also the last 2-3 weeks or so? He's been rock solid for this group.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I wrote at some point in the last week, like, it's kind of funny, like, nobody said the word back surgery in a really long time. Like we were all so worried coming into the season about, how is he gonna deal with this? Is he gonna have to play only 40 games or something? Can he handle this kind of workload? And then, Varley gets hurt pretty early on, and he's gonna end up having to play 60-something games again, and here we are back in 2023 basically, and he's putting the team on his back and playing great and basically never getting a night off. And credit to Lou for going out and finding Marcus Hogberg, but then Mark Fogberg gets hurt. And okay, Illy's going to play every game. And here we are again. And it's probably not ideal, or it's probably not what anybody planned for, and nobody can say whether there's a long-term ramification, but for right now, there's basically no reason, if you're the Islanders, to not play Sorokin pretty much every game.
Especially if he's going to be the point producer that he is. But Sean, go ahead. Go ahead. Here,
put him on the power play.
Yeah.
So Ethan, when Stefen was going through some, adding to your answer previously about what's going on in the locker room, you adamantly agreed with Mike Riley coming back. So maybe you can just expand on that and what that's meant to the team and how he's looked on the ice as well.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, obviously, I think it's just an inspiring thing to see a guy be in that situation with the heart surgery that was totally unexpected, and fight his way back. And it seems like doctors had told him kind of from the start, this isn't career threatening. Yeah, you're going to play again this year, but when you hear heart surgery, that's a pretty serious thing. So I think there's that on one level, and then the on ice level, it almost became forgettable that Mike Riley is a really good hockey player, and can move the puck and make plays and do stuff that not a lot of other guys on this team can do. They've got a lot of really sturdy defensive defensemen. Tony DeAngelo has helped with the offense a lot. And obviously Noah Dobson can do some of that. But, Riley gives you a little bit of a different dimension. Dobson and DeAngelo are both righties. Obviously, Riley can do that on the left side. He's pretty sound defensively. It's been really impressive that he's come back and played this well right away. But it also kind of gives you a glimpse of oh yeah, they were missing this for 3-4 months. That's a huge portion of the season where, as well as Isaiah George played, Isaiah George is a rookie who's learning and taking steps, and you're grading him on that curve, and that's in no way to diminish what he did. But there's a difference between Isaiah George and a guy who's been in the league for as long as Mike Riley has, and has played in the playoffs and produced on playoff teams, and just can bring that sort of extra level of experience.
All right, last one for me, Ethan. Pierre Engvall. We've obviously seen him have these 5, 6, 7 games where he looks like this dynamic, speedy guy who could produce, and then he disappears. What he's doing right now, and obviously the confidence is higher with Patrick Waugh giving him more minutes, playing on that third line. Do you believe that Pierre Engvall, this is Pierre Engvall and he can do this consistently going forward, or do you think this is just one of those hot streaks and they really have to consider what they're going to do with him in the offseason?
Yeah, I don't think that this changes how you think about Pierre Engvall in the offseason. It's really nice to see that he's playing really well. He's strung together some games. Like you said, we've seen that before. To me, if that's going to change, for anything to change the equation in terms of whether or not the Islanders buy him out in the offseason, you're going to need to see this sustain through the end of the season, and probably in the playoffs too, if they make it. Otherwise, I just, if it's, let's say he has 8 good games in a row and then ends up on the fourth line, kind of not really doing anything, and they're not really in a position where they can healthy scratch him right now. But, if he goes back to that unproductive sort of borderline healthy scratch situation, it's not just the money or the years, although those are important factors. It's also, he's taking up a roster spot. And if you're the Islanders and you're looking to kind of do a little bit of a retool and find some kind of identity that, you want to bring in guys who are, a little in the mold of like the identity line, or, guys who play that kind of game. And, well, okay, the $3 million on the cap maybe isn't that big a deal because it's going up. You can kind of handle it or whatever. But like filling a roster spot and, having to put him in the lineup a lot of nights, like that's just as big a problem.
Yeah.
So I guess to answer your question, like, no, I'm not really I'm kind of skeptical.
Yeah, so I lied. That wasn't my last question. I have another one. You brought up a good point about moving on and changing things. But do you think, obviously Scott Mayfield right now he doesn't have a starting job. With Romanov back healthy, he's out. Do you think Scott, there's any opportunity for Scott to win back a job? And if he can't win back a job, you think Scott's coming to the end of his time on Long Island?
So to answer the second question first, I do think that's a possibility. Again, like really almost the exact same situation of Pierre Engvall, minus that obviously Scott's been here a lot longer and has more of a pedigree. Like, yeah, it's money that you need to free up. It's too much money to pay a seventh fee. It's a roster spot that you want to free up if you're not going to play him. And I think the Islanders are going to have to be kind of unsentimental this offseason. So I do think that's a possibility. Actually, I think it's a possibility whether he wins back the job or not. As far as whether he does get a chance to play again this season, I would imagine so. The Islanders have enough defensive depth right now that, if the coaching staff doesn't like what it's seeing from any of the 6 guys who are in, there's no reason not to sit them for a game. And if somebody comes in and plays well, like there's no reason not to keep that person in.
Right.
And that's without mentioning that obviously they've had a million injuries and somebody could get hurt again. So I would imagine that we'll see him again this year and he'll get another chance. But as far as beyond that, like I said, I think they're going to have to really look hard at some options this offseason that are pretty unsentimental and pretty ruthless. And that's probably one of them.
Well, Ethan, it's definitely going to be an interesting summer, but we have some playoffs chasing to do before we get there. But always a pleasure having you on the show, man. Thanks a lot for your time tonight, and we look forward to next time. You bet. Thanks so much, Sean. Thanks so much, Stefen. And I'll see you guys soon. You got it, bud. Take care. All right, that was Ethan Sears of the New York Post, and that will do it for On the Line, presented by Tovi Hockey. Stefen, it's time for you to take it away. I will take it away. Tovi Hockey, the innovative hockey technology company, is the creator of the 100% carbon fiber diamond air blade, the only other NHL-approved blade technology. With superior feel and increased swing speed due to its perforated design, unparalleled control thanks to the microgrip blade texture, greater durability courtesy of its patented aerodynamic cross-beam construction, unparalleled shooting accuracy thanks to its large sweet spot, Tovi Hockey is changing the game by making the next-gen stick of tomorrow available today. Go to tovihockey.com to check out their great selection of sticks, gear, and apparel, and use promo code HNINY10 for 10% off your order. Tovi Hockey. Stronger, faster, superior. HNINY10 for 10% off your order at tovihockey.com. We're going to take one more break. When we come back, it is time for What's on Tap. Islanders fans, Sunday night is hockey night in New York. Whether you were raised at the barn in Uniondale or born in the stable at Belmont, tune in to Hockey Night in New York. Catch us live from Floored Media in Rockville Center, Sunday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, as we cover all things Islanders at twitch.tv/HockeyNightNY. All episodes are also available on YouTube and all your favorite podcast providers. And for all you social butterflies, you can follow at HockeyNightNY on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram for all the latest updates. Hockey Night in New York. The best night of the week for any Islanders fan. Thanks for giving some time to our sponsors.
Ready to talk more Isles? The train rolls on right here on Hockey Night in New York.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. The train rolls on here at Hockey Night New York, right into Center Station Bar and Grill, presenting What's on Tap. That's right. We're going to find out what's on tap for the New York Islanders. But first, Edzo, I got a question, man. How much Guinness would you say was on tap yesterday for Irish Day in Rockville Center?
Oh, man. That's a great question. How much Guinness was on tap?
Yeah. What do you think, man?
How much Guinness is no longer on tap in Rockville Center?
Better question.
Is a better question, I think, to answer that.
Okay.
A lot.
Okay. Did you partake in the festivities yesterday?
I did not.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Gave it a miss.
I worked a 9 to 5 and then was not feeling the rest of the day.
Pal.
I'm getting old. I'm 33.
Jesus.
Wow, my God. Well, Godspeed to you.
Yeah.
All right, well, I'm sure it was a lot, but let's get into the games. Let's talk about the New York Islanders. A busy week coming up for them, starting tomorrow. Columbus Blue Jackets still in the race, but this is an opportunity maybe for the Islanders to kick them to the curb a little bit.
Yeah, sadly. I mean, their season's been magical. We've already talked so much about it, but it seemed like it's kind of running out a little bit of that miracle run. However, they're getting Sean Monahan back.
Yeah.
And I think they're getting someone else back as
are.
well.
I also forgot that person's
Jay, you could
name.
look it up at some point. But Sean Monahan was, the story with Monahan and the emotional. He signed because he wanted to raise his family with Gaudreau. They were best buds. Obviously, the tragedy happened, and Sean Monahan was kind of that life for this group. And to get him back, I mean, they're going to be flying out there. I think Columbus is going to be, they may have lost that spark.
Right.
He'll bring it back. And the Islanders have to be ready because Columbus needs to win these hockey games as well. They've kind of fallen out of it a little bit.
Yeah.
But like you said, there's a chance for the Islanders to say, not so fast. We're better than you. We want the spot more than you. We're on home ice. Let's bring it.
It's going to be a good game. Monday night at UBS Arena. Jake, you got it?
Yeah, it's Eric Goodbranson.
That's what I thought.
Goodbranson on the defensive side of things.
Important pieces back. I mean, Monahan's been out for a very long time, so this is going to be huge for them, and the Islanders have to counteract that.
Got to counteract it. They have the second change, so that's good.
Yeah,
Home ice.
true.
That is an advantage. We'll see how that goes. Moving on to Wednesday, another team fighting for their playoff lives in the Vancouver Canucks. This is another home game. This will end this little homestand for the Islanders. That's another 7:30 start. Vancouver, Quinn Hughes, what do you got?
I have a Vancouver Canucks team that's got to be really pissed off to losing to the Rangers the other day. I think they outshot them 39-12 in the entire game. There was a back-and-forth game late. The Rangers eventually held on and took the lead and won that game, but Canucks did everything to win that.
Right.
Quinn Hughes is Quinn Hughes. He was going up against JT Miller.
Besser's been hot of late.
Besser's been hot. Elias Pettersson's looked a lot better. And this is another Canucks team playoff spot you're fighting. So, yeah, it's going to be tough. Kevin Lankinen, he's a guy that if you guys remember Lankinen's name, when he was for Nashville, it was at UBS Arena. I think he pitched like a 35-save shutout. It was something, the Islanders peppered him. He's probably one of the better games of his NHL career, maybe 40-plus saves. So he's beating the Islanders before. But I think Vancouver's a team that very mobile defensive team, very fast, like they did against Florida early, like they did even well against Edmonton and Pittsburgh. You got to get the pucks behind their D. That's why these Islanders team is effective. And now with the bottom six playing the way they've played, that forecheck's back. That fourth line being a line you could rely on to set the stage is back. And when I look at teams like Vancouver and I look at teams like Columbus, fast teams, most teams in the league are fast, but you need to rely on your bottom six to set the stage, get on the forecheck that allows your top six to flourish. And I think against a guy like Vancouver, Quinn Hughes is obviously the guy you got to watch. He loves to be offensive. Get the puck behind him. He's a good defender, so getting the puck behind him doesn't mean much, but limit how fast he's able to get up the ice. That's got to be key number one.
So 2 tough but winnable games to close out this homestand. Then they get 2 nights off. And then they go on a little tough road
Death
trip.
back-to-back.
Yeah, not great for the Islanders. Playoff villains over the last few years, as we can all remember. You got Tampa Bay Saturday, 2 o'clock. So not only is it Tampa in Tampa, it's an afternoon game. So maybe bet the Lightning that day.
Apparently, the 4 o'clock game yesterday, it counts as a matinee. It doesn't turn over until 5. That's why the Islanders lost.
See, there you have it.
I don't make the rules.
It's a rule as old as time.
But we know, Tampa, not to bring back bad things that happened in Tampa, but that was the game where Matthew Barzal lost his left leg. And unfortunately, and it was a huge win, though, for the team. D'Angelo overtime winner, Boquist gets the goal, who's not in the lineup. But they proved they could beat Tampa. And I think that was a huge thing because not that they haven't beaten Tampa before, but they're an elite team. We know what happened in the bubble, right?
Yes.
So, and before that. But it's a huge game because Carolina's next. And the Hurricanes... Who'd have thought that them getting rid of Rantanen, they'd be a lot better?
Right.
Well, it's clear as day Rantanen didn't want to be there, which probably didn't help the room at all. But getting Logan Stankoven back in this, I mean, they had to part ways. Dallas had to part ways with a guy like Rantanen, but he's such a Brind'Amour player. It's disgusting. Mm-hmm. And they're a talented hockey team. They're very talented. I know Brett Burns just turned 40, but he's still solid in his own right. And I guess we have to see what happened with Jarvis. He got hurt yesterday. I'm not sure how he's going to be, but this is a Carolina Hurricane team that's kind of rejuvenated as well. It's always been about goaltending for them. But again, second of a back-to-back, they're waiting for you. I'm not sure if they played the day before, but they're home anyway. So they have the leg up. So for the Islanders, it's going to be a tough back-to-back, but it's going to also be a major test. How badly do they want this?
And that is a 5 o'clock start. So once again...
That's a night game.
It is technically a night game, so the Islanders should be at their best for that one. But you know what? You look at this Columbus game, this Vancouver game, and maybe that puts an onus on getting points out of those ones just in case things don't go so well in Tampa and Carolina, because we know that those are going to be tougher opponents.
And you've talked about it, so I want to give you credit for that. If they're going to make the playoffs, they're going to earn it. Like you've said that numerous times. And this is a weekend where whether they win these 2 games prior in the week, like, those are games you have to win. You look back, I mean, we talked about so many games the Islanders blew early in the year to bad teams. I look back at that Ducks loss on the road trip. You beat San Jose after the trade deadline. If you beat Anaheim, you're probably in a playoff spot right now. I know that's so easy to say.
Sure.
But now, you have easier opponents during the week. You got to make those count. But if you don't beat them, then you got to do what you did against Florida and overcome it. I mean,
which would be the Islander way.
Lose both games and win both of the back-to-backs.
Right.
With Hogberg in one of them.
Yeah, probably. And then, of course, creep right within that, 1 to 2 points behind again for a playoff spot. That's probably what's going to happen. But either way, going to be a tough week. We'll see what the Islanders are made of this week. So far, the last 5 games, 3-0-2. Let's see if they can keep it up. And if you just want to look beyond this stretch of games, after this coming weekend, 9 games in April. That's it.
Well, it's 9 games in 17 days, right?
Yeah, they're not playing 9 back-to-back games.
No, I know. 9 games, yeah. That's a lot.
I would say it's not. I would say not. I believe 5 of them are home, 4 are on the road, and all of the home games are against, the tougher teams, 2 against Washington, Minnesota. Well, that's another thing, too. We might be witnessing some history at UBS Arena if timing works out with Ovechkin breaking that record.
Yeah, he's going to break the record. The Islanders are going to challenge for offsides, and he'll live to see another day.
You know what? That would be awesome.
That'd be awful.
Do you think? Actually, this is actually a great thought that you just brought up. Do you think?
It's an accident.
Do you think the league would have the balls to go through a review on the goal that would break the record for Ovechkin?
Listen,
when
Brock Nelson scored the first ever goal at UBS Arena against Calgary, that goal got waved off immediately. So no one celebrated it, and then they reviewed it, and it got counted as a goal, and everyone's like,
That's a little different. It's a little different.
Do they have the balls, or does a coach have the balls to challenge?
Even better. Waugh does.
Patrick
if any coach will do it, it would be Patrick
Waugh. By an inter-goal interference, something, yeah. If it's one coach, but no, hopefully it's a not against the Islanders, and it's a power play from his spot, one-timer, no doubt about it goal. Not like an empty. If it's an empty netter, just don't count it.
No. See, I just wanted it to be against the Islanders. I wanted to see him break the record. I wanted to be in the building, but now I have an addendum now. I want it to be against the Islanders, and I want Patrick Waugh to challenge it.
You should have challenged it anyway.
And I want to see them spend a half an hour going over whether or not they want to count that goal.
Yeah, 20-minute challenge for an offside that was a hair off.
Oh, man, that would be brutal. That
anyway,
would be
but I guess not a lot of games in April.
Right. Definitely not 9 games in a row.
Yeah.
Okay, that'll do it for...
We have to ask Jake, though. We always ask Jake, what do you think the record's going to be this week? So many games.
I know. So it's 4 games.
4 games.
It's almost as many games as they have in
8 points on the table.
All right. So let's
Columbus, Vancouver, Tampa, Carolina.
Okay. So I'm going to go 2-1-1.
2-1-1.
I think they'll pick up regulation wins in the first 2 games of the week.
Okay.
At home. I think they'll lose in regulation to Tampa.
Okay.
And then take the Carolina Hurricanes to overtime and lose probably by Seth Jarvis.
Makes a lot of sense.
Okay. Yeah. And you know what? I think that's a successful week.
They're probably going 4-0.
Maybe. Maybe.
The way it's so hard to bet against this group. I know they blew leads in the last couple of games, but they're just so resilient. When you think they have no shot at doing something, they kind of find a way to do it, especially late in the season.
We're going to find out. That's why they play the games. That's why we watch the games. And that will do it for What's on Tap, presented by Center Station Bar and Grill. Catch great food and drinks, live events, and Isles games all season long at 279A Sunrise Highway in Rockville Center. And now we move on to the hero of the week. That's right. We're going to talk about guys who we thought performed really well in this past week. Stefen, you're going to start.
I cheated. I have 3 people. Actually, I'll make it a singular. I have the fourth line.
Oh, okay.
There we go.
All right.
Semantics, right?
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
The Islanders have been waiting for a fourth line they could rely on to shut down the league's best and just trust and go out there and be that identity line. And of course, it's impossible to do the MC square guys and redo that. However, the line of Siplikov, McLean, and Gatcomb, where Siplikov, top six talent, playing the bottom line, he's fitting like a glove, and he's brought the best out of Gatcomb and McLean and kind of rejuvenated them. 4 goals in the last 5 games for these guys. Siplikov, a goal and 2 assists. Gatcomb, 2 goals. McLean, 1 goal. They've been clutch at key moments. Siplikov's obviously was breakaway goal against Florida. Big goal on that one. Gatcomb had 2 goals. The last one obviously gave him a 2-1 lead before going to the second. It didn't pay off. And then McLean scored what should have been the game-winning goal last night, but for him, no goals in 17.
And a nice setup by Siplikov on that one.
So that line is absolutely cooking right now. And we talked about you need depth scoring to win, whether it's in the playoffs or down the stretch.
Absolutely.
Especially without Barzal and no Nelson. You need these guys, and this trio has been great in their own zone, and they're playing the defensive zone has allowed them for offensive chances, and they're finishing them.
Well, it's hard to argue, and you know what? Kudos to you for spreading the love around, man. You couldn't just pick one guy.
No, 3 of them. There's probably more.
They're all playing pretty well.
Yeah, and you're going to be that. You're going to pick one guy because you don't want to spread the well.
That's right. I'm going to be greedy for one man. That's right, and that's Bowie Horvat, ladies and gentlemen. This is a guy who I think his offensive production kind of came into question when Matt Barzal's out of the lineup. The goal scoring dries up. Where's this guy been? And he's been a huge part of the reason why they're still in the playoff mix right now. Let's rattle off some numbers here. OT goal versus the Habs, of course. You have the lone goal versus Edmonton that helped him get the point in that game. 4 goals and an assist through the 3-0-2 stretch. And he had that, the tying goal, the opening goal against Calgary?
Yes.
The opening goal against Calgary. So this is a guy who's been all over the score sheet this week. He's been playing really well. And a guy with players like Matt Barzal and Brock Nelson not in the lineup, he's got to step up, and he has, and he's taken on a leadership role here, and he's done very well.
I think it was the 1-1 tying goal against Calgary. I believe it was a great goal. He's been locked in, though.
That's right.
He's been absolutely locked in. They need this. And we asked Patrick Waugh about Bo Horvat this morning. This is what he had to say about him coming through.
Yeah, played really well. I mean, he's a leader on our team, and he's been leading on the ice as well. And the way he's been playing, I mean, with his line mate, I mean, it's impressive. I mean, every night they're playing, I mean, a strong game, and their match up against top pairing on defense and then top lines. So I mean, and they're consistent, and that's what you want as a coach. You hope to see that. And I think he's shoots with confidence right now. I mean, it's nice to see.
So after this, I said, how impressive has it been for Bo Horvat with how many different line mates he's had this year? And he's, again, maybe he's not scoring, but his game is always consistent, whether he's producing or not. And Patrick Waugh gave actually a hint of something to look forward towards next year, because I'm a big proponent of, if they can't go ahead and get a 2C, just play Barzal at 2C.
Right.
And even this year, we've seen that Waugh's gone away from Horvat and Barzal, and I asked him, and he goes, well, we'd love to have Barzal with him, but we can't. He's hurt. And I was like, that's interesting. Because that might, maybe, who knows for next year, but maybe Waugh is thinking about keeping Horvat and Barzal together going forward, when it's very easy to just make Barzal a center again, because we've seen what they can do together, but losing a guy like Nelson, and two C's don't grow in trees. And if Barzal could play center, it makes sense. But credit to Horvat, because even through the tough times, he's always led on and off the ice. The energy's always there. He's flying up and down the rink regardless, and great hero for you, because he's had a fantastic week.
He has. And just to touch on what you mentioned there before for next season, I don't think they view Pajot as the long-term 2C. I think that's something they'll look to fill. We got to wait to see what Lamarillo does, and then maybe the best option there is moving Barzal. But once again, heroes of the week, the entire fourth line, as well as Bo Horvat. That will do it for Hero of the Week. And now I'm going to tell you guys about Isles Fix. Islanders Country, get your daily fix of Isles news, highlights, and analysis by subscribing to Isles Fix, the Monday through Friday Islanders newsletter sent directly to your inbox. Sign up for free or become a paid subscriber for added benefits at islesfix.substack.com. And now we will take it over to the Snake Den.
It's time. Welcome to the Snake Den with Jake the Snake Redonis.
That's right, folks. It's time to visit the Snake Den with Jake the Snake Redonis. Jake, how have you been, buddy?
I've been good. I got new shoes that Jay really likes.
Wow.
Yeah, been
how
good.
about that?
Yeah.
You have a good chat about it?
Yeah, we did. He keeps bringing it up.
Okay.
He's smiling now, too.
He loves shoes. There are literally shoes hanging on the wall here in the studio.
There are.
Yeah.
Yes, they are.
The guy loves footwear. He really does. All right, Jake, back to you. You've been good. What's going on?
Yeah, you talked about Bo Horvat stepping up. I think there's another two guys who have stepped up, and that's, there's a ton of them. Everyone talk about resiliency with this group, but Noah Dobson and Simon Holmstrom. And I think with Noah Dobson, the key thing is he looks confident out there again. And I know that's something that we've talked about a lot on the show, is the confidence for Dobson and how that really like plays into his game.
Sure.
And you could just tell that he feels comfortable out there and he's stepping up. So he came back on February the 27th from his injury. During that time, there's 10 points in 12 games, 2 goals and 8 assists, which is tied for 5th for defensemen in points in that span.
Okay.
And then during the Isles' current point streak, so the past 5 games, 7 points, 2 goals, and 5 assists, 3 games in a row with 2 points.
Career high, by the way. It's the first time he's ever done that.
So he's stepping up to the table, and that's without Noah Dobson playing like this team is not fighting for a playoff spot. They needed him badly to do this. And then Simon Holmstrom, who's been a catalyst for this team all year. He's been great too. During this point streak, 4 points, 3 goals, and 1 assist. Granted, 2 of them were empty net goals, but he's putting the games away. But it's great to see.
That's the point right there. Everyone says empty nets don't matter. Like Simon Holmstrom scoring the empty netter disallowed any chance of comebacks and keyed in 2 points. So that's a great point, Jake.
Exactly. And so it's great to see too, because these are 2 of your young guys on this team, 2 pending RFAs that you hope to have on the Long Island for the long run. Obviously, we know what Dobson could be, 70-point defenseman last year. Hoping he could get back to that, and what he's been showing lately gives confidence for the fan base to think, okay, maybe Dobson can get back to that level. And then Simon Holmstrom, maybe not a 70, 60-point player.
Right.
He could be a 60-point player.
Never know.
But he might score 20 goals this year, and when you lose a guy like Brock Nelson, and we talk about where these goals going to come from, to have a 23-year-old who might pot 20 goals this year, who probably will only get better from here, it's a pretty good sign.
No, I think these are great players to bring up, and it's kind of like this recipe that's been mixing together now recently to keep them relevant in the playoff chase. And as you said, these are 2 young guys that are going to be a big part of this team's future, assuming they hang on to both of them. I know, earlier in the season we're talking about what they're going to do about Noah Dobson, but if he's going to play like this, then you say to yourself, okay, maybe he's worth, keeping around. So it's great that they're both playing as well as they are. It's great to see that confidence, because it just goes to show you once again how, you can have all the tools in the world. And here's a guy who the mental game is kind of, working for him right now. And he's back to that player we saw last season, at least right now, putting up 70 points.
And I think with Dobson too, I think he's benefited so much not playing with Romanov. And this is what I've seen this year. I think, Romanov was always defensive first, Dobson was offensive first, and that's a good balance where the guy's going to be back. And then what happened is, and I'm not blaming Romanov, is he developed a 2-way game. And so he wants to jump on the rush, which puts more pressure on Dobson to stay back at times and play defense. And we know that's not his bread and butter. I know he's a defenseman, not his job. And we saw how good Romanov has been with D'Angelo. So now you're wondering, all right, how does Dobson benefit? Well, playing with Pelech or Pulak, whoever he's going to play with, he knows that those guys are going to be defense first. And he's allowed to just play his game. And I think he's playing his game right now, like you said, the points. But there's so much confidence now because I don't think he's worrying too much about defense. He has a job to do for sure. But he's like, you know what? I don't have to worry about my partner. Like, just doing his going up and trying, like, they're trusting me to be the offensive guy in my line. Not blaming Romanov. It's great that he's developed a 2-way game.
Yeah.
I think Dobson's just a lot better with a defensive defenseman, and it's paying dividends right now. And Holmstrom's been an absolute menace. Not saying he's a top-line guy, but he, no doubt about it, is a top 6 producer, I think. But also the other thing is he's so good defensively. He's your top, could be our top penalty killer in this league. He's very smart defensively. And if he's playing on a second line, that line could also be the shutdown line.
Yeah.
And it's a great versatility to have.
Well, Jake, great points all around. Excellent stuff. You already gave us a prediction, so that's going to do it for the Snake Den. Get the hell out of here.
That's all, folks.
All right, now we're going to move on to Questions Brewing.
It's time for Questions Brewing. So go ahead.
Ask us a question.
That's right. The second best intro to a segment.
We all hit that guitar
on the show.
It was the first.
It's
and
a
then
fun.
The Snake Den happened.
It's a fun note to hit. It's true. Well, welcome to Questions Brewing, everybody. It's time for you guys to get involved. Ed, how's the chat looking? How's Jay doing? He looks thrilled to be here.
Oh my God.
How's everything going over there?
Well enough. We're still here, right?
Okay.
Why is he doing
I'm doing
jumping
great.
jacks?
I'm happy to be back this week.
Yeah, a little weekend off.
Yeah.
Well, that's why Jay's pissed. Yeah.
Oh, I get it.
He missed us. He missed us so much. We're back. All right, so what do you got, man?
I want to get this question out of the way. Aisle 72 asks, is the stuff behind them real or a green screen? So if one of you could...
Do you want me to lean back?
Behind us?
Stefen, you could give that mannequin a stroke.
It's a green screen. I can't touch that. No.
Yep.
There you go. There's Niles right there. He's real. He's our friend.
He's a real boy.
Yeah, he's
real. So it is real.
Yeah.
It is not a green screen.
Now I got to put him back.
This is a set, by yours truly.
But I want to say
that's
a huge comment because they think we just copy and pasted a picture behind us when
there is not.
Yeah, no, this is the real deal. This Stefen's real too. This suit's real.
Goes right.
He got it at Caracos.
Goes right through. I rented it.
Next question is from Freedom Fun and Adventure on YouTube. He says, "How will the pain cycle end for Isles fans if the team uses the same script annually?" I'm filling in missing words here. Weak effort until trade deadline and end of season. Gets team mid-draft position. How do you accelerate?
Well, Lou did say it's going to be a summer of change, so you have to hope that he's actually going to put his money where his mouth is, right? And he talks about how sometimes deals work out, sometimes deals don't, but I think there's a little more of an onus this summer on him actually, coming through and getting this team younger. We saw what with Gelb, I forget his last name, the guy they just picked up from the college ranks, right? Yep, that's the one. It looks like they're trending in that direction. Obviously, you have to do more than just sign a rando college free agent. We don't even know if a guy like him is going to pan out, but you have to figure that if he's coming forward and saying, look, there's changes to be made. He very definitively said we're making changes this summer. So I take him at his word, and we've said too. It also sounds like he's not going anywhere this summer, so that's a change we may not see. But look, they still have a good core, but they do have to build around it. And I think the first step was dealing Brock Nelson at the trade deadline. I think that's a sign that there's more changes to come. So if he can, swing more deals and bring in a kid like Richie or bring in a first round draft pick, that's heading in the right direction. And he's got an entire summer, the draft weekend, to make more moves. And then maybe this is a team who's no longer just scratching and clawing to stay in the playoffs in the 8th seed and then potentially get bounced out in the first round. Like they can, with the right moves, they can turn this team back into a contender.
Speaking of Geb, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing his name wrong. Gelb? No, there's no L.
G-E-L-B.
Stefen with the rare mispronunciation.
The L in the wrong spot. It's G-L-E-B.
The last name was a V. We're going to call him.
Sorry, Gleb.
Glebby V. Glebby V is what we're going to call him. We have Bridgeport news. He signed for the rest of the season with Bridgeport.
Yes.
Which means he can now play. And also, Jesse Pulkkinen, who the Islanders drafted in 2024 in the second round, big defenseman, but mobile big defenseman. We didn't think he was coming to North America this soon. He's coming.
Okay.
And he's with Bridgeport for this year. So that's big news for Bridgeport. I know their season's been terrible, but you have a guy and a defenseman who weren't ready to come yet. He's here. And then to get this guy, the college undrafted free agent, come in, he's kind of maybe it's a Zeki's replacement down the line.
Okay. What else you got in?
Next question from Glebby V. Just kidding. Dale SS. Do you know what the conditions are on Scott Perunovich's trade with the Isles giving up a 5th round pick in 26?
I don't.
The trade is conditional, but I can't find anything what the conditions are.
You can't find anything because no one said anything about it because nobody knows anything about it. I think, usually with things like that, it's game is played. Scott Perunovich is not going to hit the games played, I don't think, unless it's 2. So we don't know. That's a great question. I know everyone on the beat is trying to find the answer to it, but we know Lou is just laughing so hard because we cannot figure it out.
Yeah. DTMR asks, what exactly is DeRosier's role as assistant coach?
He's in charge of the face-offs, the structure off the face-off, and he does help with the PK. And they're first place in face-offs, and a lot of the rush chances off face-off wins has a lot to do with Benoit.
And the PK's gotten a lot better.
Yep.
Yeah. Tom Boyler wants to know if we have any viewing parties coming up.
Actually, as a matter of fact, we do. April 10th, Thursday. That's a home game for the Isles at UBS. But for those Islanders and Stranger fans who can't make it, we're going back to Borelli's. That's right, Isles Rangers. And it looks like it may just be an important game. I was getting a little worried, I'll be honest with you. I was like, this may not be an important game for either team, but they're both still in the mix. At the very least, maybe one team plays the spoiler. But yeah, we're going back to Borelli's Thursday night, April 10th. Be there.
Look at T-Boyle setting you up for that.
Love it.
Yeah, and he's got more.
Oh.
But we'll get to more. We'll get to more. Next up from CGS, he asks, is it time to give Bo Horvat the C since he's been... whoa. Those guys, he has a point. Since he's been less injured than the other guys.
Well, I don't think Anders is going anywhere.
Yeah.
So, like, and I'm not saying you're knocking Anders. There's a reason why Anders wears the C, and I think what he's done on the ice this year and the way he's handled himself through all of this has been exceptional, and I don't think it's a problem with Horvat having an A. There's other guys you could give the A to. Palmieri's winning the A, Pulak's winning the A, but I don't think we're giving Horvat the C because he's healthy. I mean, Anders has been healthy.
Yeah.
So I would keep Anders the C, keep Horvat the A, and then maybe you figure out in the summer if someone else is going to get it. But Horvat's... Everything's working with Horvat wearing the A right now. Let's not change it.
And not for nothing, like, Anders Lee is still producing.
Yeah.
You know, it's not even a case of like, he's not really doing much in the ice. Do we need to give the C to somebody else? No, we're good where we are.
Yeah. Tomboy wants to know if you see Pageau getting moved this summer.
I do. I know that there were teams interested at the deadline. I believe Edmonton was one of those teams, but the want to just bring back a draft pick, and this is something that people I think got misconstrued with what Lou said. He said that, he wasn't willing to trade these guys. Everyone's thinking, how do you trade Nelson, trade Palmieri, trade all these guys. He wasn't willing to trade them for just picks because he had to fill it in He didn't want UBS Arena empty for a month and a half with they have no prospects really to call up to bring in. You need bodies here. But when the draft happens with guys under contract, 1 year left instead of 2, in theory, you can move these guys to the draft because you're not trying to fill a roster, a lineup for a playoff run. Like, Lou believed in the group. So trading Pageau and all those guys, maybe you get picks and prospects back, then what? Who are you running on your lineup? So I think Pageau will be moved this summer. I think that's probably going to happen. But a lot of those guys are much easier to move at the draft for him because he's not associated them with this season. It's about next year. Whereas at the deadline, well, what do we do for the next month and a half? I want to compete. We don't have guys to bring up. So I think Pageau will be moved at the deadline. I don't think anyone that was not moved at the deadline is off the table. I think that was just, hey, let's do that in the summer. Easier to move guys at the draft.
I'm not as convinced that Pageau will be moved. I think that then all of a sudden you got 2 center spots that you got to fill.
Well, you have Richie who's going to make the team, in my humble opinion. He's probably your 2C or 3C. I think you're 3C. I think he's NHL ready. And I don't think you want to put him in Bridgeport.
He might be, but he might be a guy you got to bring along a little, more slowly, whether that's even putting him on the wing.
Well, that's my thing with Barzal. If you have Horvat, Barzal, Richie, and then Cizikas or McLean, you have it more lined up. If you're going to stick to Barzal being a winger, then you probably don't want to move Pageau. Whether he's your 2C or not, if Richie's your 2C and he's training, Pageau is training Richie, I think that's important as well. But I just think with Pageau, like Ethan said, that's money. If you can move him and he's also having a great year faceoff. He's going to have a career year in the faceoff dot. He's produced more than ever. This might be the time, whereas maybe you waited on a guy like Nelson.
I'll be curious to see.
Yeah.
I'll be curious to see.
Another question from Isles72. He says, for me, Tony DeAngelo seems to pass the eye test, but I've read his analytics weren't all that good. What's your take?
Well, forget about analytics because analytics don't... If the eye test is good and Wah believes in the eye test over analytics, he's never going to pay attention to the numbers. I think Tony DeAngelo has been great at what he does. I think maybe the way he was playing early in his Islanders tenure, he hasn't been as good, but he's still racking up the points. He's like Mike Riley. They're looking for that stretch pass to get up the ice. Tony DeAngelo filled the need. I don't know if he's part of the team going forward because you do have to think about Riley and you have Boquist, and if you can't move a defenseman, you have Isaiah George as well. But DeAngelo's been great. I think he passes the eye test. Could he be a little stronger defensively? Sure, but you want a guy that could push the pace, and he does that every time he touches the puck.
Yeah, I mean, look, credit where it's due. I think he's been an asset to this team since he's come over on the ice, assuming that he's being a good boy behind the scenes and in the locker room. He's a guy who I would definitely consider giving a 1-year deal to keep him around because I think he's been good for this team.
Christopher Michael asks, is there only one playoff spot available? What record to get that spot in the final 13?
If there was only one playoff spot available, the record, like from now until the end?
I assume so.
Oh, I'm so bad at math.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're 3 games over 4 games over 500 right now. So you figure they'd have to be at least another 4 games over.
Yeah, I agree.
So you're probably... Jake, what do you got here? I see it.
Well, I pulled up Money Puck because...
Smart.
Perfect. Yeah, what do you got?
Because they nail those percentages.
Yeah. So Ottawa's 94.6% chance to make the playoffs. So that spot kind of just seems like it's pretty much locked up.
Yeah.
The Islanders are on that. They are 28.2, and Montreal's 49.5 right now.
And that wavers with every result. But as far as the record they need to have, you got to figure they got to go another like stretch of 4 games over 500 probably in these
undefeated would help. Yeah,
that would seal it. I mean, they went. You might get the 3 seed if you do that.
They went 8-1 in their last 9 last year. Just do that again.
Listen, and you got Jersey on the downswing
here.
They
got so many games in April, so
in a row.
In a row.
Mr. Tom Boyle asks, if the Islanders qualify for the playoffs, do you see Barzal returning?
No. Next question. No, I mean we could. I mean I don't think we're going to see him back.
I thought there was a chance. I guess not.
I'm not a scientist. I don't know how to do surgeries or anything. We don't know his exact.
One thing you've done consistently is tell everybody what you're not.
Yeah, well,
a doctor, a scientist.
Just Stefen.
Just Stefen.
With the injury that he had and the fact that there's no update on him and we haven't seen him skate or there's no update of him even being able to get on the ice, I don't think we see him. I think it would be a miracle if he's back this year.
Okay, say no more. Say less, as they say.
Yeah.
I should say less.
Yeah. Do you guys have a negative view on Bridgeport as most fans?
Yes.
I think if you have a positive, I think you need to get checked out.
And what is there good to say about Bridgeport? We spent a lot of time on that.
No offense to the players in Bridgeport or the situation they're trying to run to. It's been a really bad season, and the prospects that are down there aren't developing. So there's no way to look at it as a positive unless you hope that the college players come over and play in Bridgeport and revamp that. They need a complete overhaul, just a mindset in Bridgeport right now. It's tough.
And acquiring more young talent will help that.
Yeah. What's your take on Gatcombe?
Well, he shared a hero.
Will Lou
spot tonight?
Will Lou extend?
Yeah, I think he's earned one. Like Kyle McLean, a 3-year deal at league minimum or 2-year deal at league minimum. He's done everything the Islanders have asked for, and if he's going to add a scoring touch too.
Right.
Again, this is such a different team than it was a couple of years ago, where your fourth line didn't really score at all. Sezikis had that 120-goal year, but defense first. But you're getting defense first and scoring in today's NHL. You can have 4 lines that can score. The really, really good teams that have consistent, dominant regular seasons and go on long playoff runs get scoring the entire year from up and down their lineup. So Gatcombe, spark plug, energy guy. He's a Kyle McLean of this year. I think it's a no-brainer. There's no reason not to extend.
He's earned himself a deal,
I believe that might be it. DTMR asks, how many teams on Scott's no-trade / movement?
So it's a full no-trade. So that he has he can't be moved unless he agrees to go. So technically all of them.
I mean, that's pretty sufficient.
Then it becomes a 15 team, I believe, but that's not for another couple of years.
But if he keeps getting held out of the lineup and they kind of show him, hey, you don't really have much of a future here, he might bend. And
I think he would bend to play every day.
Yeah, depending on where.
Yeah, I believe that's the last one that we have.
Okay, well, that's great. Well, thanks to everybody for participating in Questions Brewing. Always appreciate the questions. And with that out of the way, we can wrap this thing up. Wow. All right. Big thanks to Ethan Sears of the New York Post for hanging out with us tonight, giving us a great spot as always. And a huge thanks to all of our sponsors, starting with Main Street Board Game Cafe at 307 Main Street in Huntington Village. Find out how to unplug your game at mainstboardgamecafe.com. Also, a huge thanks to Center Station Bar and Grill. Head on down to 279A Sunrise Highway in Rockville Center for Isles games, live music, karaoke, comedy shows. They do it all and more at Center Station Bar and Grill. A huge thanks to Razor and Kniff, attorneys at law. Nobody likes going to court, but if you have to, call 212-LAW-1500 for a free consultation. And last but not least, a huge thanks to Tovey Hockey, creators of the Diamond Air Blade. Go to toveyhockey.com to check out their great products and use promo code HNINY10 for 10% off your order. And folks, if you haven't already, please rate, review, and subscribe, and say very nice things about us on your favorite podcast provider, whether that's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever else. Twitch, I don't even know if they have reviews. They probably don't. It doesn't matter. But just rate, review, and subscribe, please. Stefen Rosner, where can everybody find you on the internet and the like?
Yeah, you can find me at CaracoSuits.com. No,
yeah!
At Stefen.
3 for 1.
Thanks for laughing, Jay. At Stefen_Rosner. That's STEFEN_ROSNER. Blue Sky, NHL.com, the Hockey News Islanders, and the Elmonters Monday through Friday newsletter at theelmonters.com.
There you have it. You can find myself on Twitter at Shawnee Hockey. You can follow the show at Hockey Night NY on all social media platforms. Jake the Snake Radonis, where can you be found?
You can find me on X at Jake Radonis, JakeRadonis.
It is. We're in Giggle Town right now. All right,
I got Jay
nice.
to laugh too.
Yeah, nice to join us. It's great. You can also check out the website hockeynightny.com for more content. Plenty of stuff going on there as well. You can actually see a photograph of Jay on the website if you're curious of what he looks like, because he never gets on the camera. He's very shy, but he's up there. He's a very handsome man. So that's gonna do it for us. For Stefen Rosner, for Jake the Snake Radonis, for Edzo, for Jason Belsky. I've been Sean Cuthbert. We've been Hockey Night in New York. And don't forget, Thursday, April 10th, we're going back to Borelli's. The Islanders are going to try to lock down that third spot in the Metropolitan Division. We'll see you soon. Thanks for tuning in. Have a lovely rest of your night.